Hello, thanks for joining a new video. Today we'll discuss the MacBook Air with M1 processor in 2025. Is it worth it? Let's begin. This computer represented a major revolution back then, as it completely transformed the architecture by shifting from an Intel processor to Apple's renowned M processors. It features the M1 chip, which at that time was not yet capable of running all applications natively. This change marked a significant shift in how these devices were built and operated, showcasing Apple's innovation in processor technology. So the experience might be somewhat slower than what we're accustomed to today. Luckily, with the integration of Apple's own processors, it enjoys an exceptionally long support period. By the time we reach the year 2025, it will have already been updated to the latest macOS version. We are referring to the 26 Tahoe version, which includes the innovative liquid glass feature. Therefore, the computer feels very up-to-date regarding its operation and operating system, making it almost identical to using a computer that has just been released. Nevertheless, considering that many years have gone by since its launch in 2020, it means that this computer can now be positioned at a highly appealing and competitive price, especially when you think about everything it can provide us. It's clear that by the year 2025, very few manufacturers will distribute this computer as brand new. Most of them will choose to offer it in a refurbished or pre-owned format. Therefore, the experience of buying it in such a way will be important as well. Personally, I purchased the refurbished model on Amazon with 500 GB. And this could be quite appealing because Apple often sells these configurations with excessive storage at a very high price. In this particular case, as I previously mentioned to you, I managed to acquire it in a much more affordable version. To provide an estimated price, we might be discussing something in the vicinity of around 10,000 Mexican pesos. You might find it at a lower price or perhaps a bit more costly, depending on the option you decide to choose. However, if we compare this computer with other proposals within the same price range, I believe this could potentially become one of the most appealing options available. For instance, the design will be highly appealing. It's a metal part that gives you a super premium feel. In the category, you will generally find much less robust plastic computers, although obviously when buying a refurbished product, it may have some aesthetic details, and in this case, being a metal piece, for example, you will see that its sharp edges may be with some small marks normal of a refurbished product, but I think it is worth it in return. Having the premium feel. The design looks premium. The screen frames are the only thing that reveal it's not so modern. For instance, it has straight corners, unlike Apple's usual rounded ones, which doesn't give a modern touch. The top, bottom, and side frames are noticeably thick. Let's say the screen's aesthetics are what show it's not a recent model, but for the price, I can argue perfectly well, especially because it's a pretty good screen that doesn't sacrifice quality in terms of its resolution, because it's 2560x 1600. In the price range, most manufacturers tend to offer screens with lower resolution, which means details won't appear as sharp. However, this is an exceptionally high-quality IPS display, featuring excellent contrast and technologies such as True Tone to provide a truly premium experience. Considering the price range, I believe it's absolutely outstanding. However, there are additional details that significantly enhance the overall experience of using a laptop. For instance, in this particular case, the keyboard is equipped with backlighting, which once again complements the device perfectly. To the computer, in this category, the keyboard is quite comfortable. It types well. For me, it doesn't include the letter N. This is a detail that maybe you should consider when purchasing a refurbished product. Sincerely, I did not check this information before acquiring it. I assumed that it would come with the letter N, and I was wrong. So if for you it is this particular detail, please pay attention. I can overlook it since it's the 512 GB model. However, it might be a detail that you should definitely take into account. Another standout feature of this computer is the trackpad, as trackpads in this category are typically quite basic. Here, it's a wide trackpad that responds well to gestures and touches, with a premium click feel compared to what other laptops in this price range offer. This is where you notice a significant difference compared to other options in this price range. And the same goes for the sound. Consider that we have front-facing speakers, something totally unheard of in the category where we usually find speakers that are on the bottom. And the sound is very simple. It's true that the bass presence is not at the level of a MacBook Pro, but it's definitely a sound that being fully front-facing is perceived very good, with a lot of quality, very wide, with good volume power. Here, once more, it fully distinguishes itself from any competitors. I emphasize this is among the most appealing computers in its price range. The image quality that it has for video calls is going to be totally good and far superior to what other manufacturers can offer. Consider, for example, that at this moment I am at night recording, although it is true that I am with the light on, but it is what you would do in your room and the quality is really very good, believe me. There are the laptops that in these conditions are going to have a lot of noise. You're not going to see the detail well, so it delivers again very attractively. Another crucial aspect of this computer is the battery. With the Apple M processor architecture, it uses significantly less power than Intel or AMD processors, so the battery performance will be impressive. The key issue here is to consider the battery's maximum capacity. When purchasing a refurbished laptop like this one, the battery already has some wear and a limited lifespan. In my case, it has the maximum capacity of 89%, which I think is still acceptable. Not the most spectacular. But if you're going to buy this laptop used, yes, it would be good to check this aspect. Specifically in the battery settings, you simply go to the section that says battery condition and you press the button on the information eye to see what is the maximum capacity it retains. Still, this is the health of the battery, which is still above 80%. It is acceptable, but the laptop itself has a very good battery life. So even if battery health is no longer at 100%, it's still going to give you good battery life, especially for students that maybe you're going to be using just Word, Excel, or PowerPoint documents. Basic internet browsing, that is, if you're not going to do very demanding processing such as video editing, rendering in 3D or similar things, believe me that the laptop will give you a lot of battery life. And this is another aspect that makes it one of the more attractive options. You're not going to have to carry the charger around. Although speaking of that, one of the limitations it does have is that we are only going to find 2 USB-C ports, and one of them you have to use to charge the computer. So it will be practically an obligation to buy an adapter to have more ports available or use HDMI connectors, similar things. Think of this as an additional purchase that complements your main item. However, I believe these adapters are generally not very costly. Therefore, in my opinion, I would factor it into the overall price range, and it would still remain a compelling choice to consider. The operating system, as I mentioned earlier, includes the latest version since it has been updated and will keep getting updates, allowing you to experience the newest features soon with Apple Intelligence and other enhancements. The reality is that Mac is a quite mature operating system, very pleasant to use, although it doesn't offer the same level of customization as Google. Windows with respect to manipulating very deep system stuff, so if you're very playful with system settings, and more so if you're going to feel a little locked in, but if you just want a product that works well and that's it, the Mac, believe me, is going to give you a very good experience. Connectivity with your phone can be tough if it's not an iPhone. With an iPhone, it's easier due to AirDrop and screen mirroring integration. iPhone users don't need to worry. But Apple is closed off. Android users must install a special app to sync and transfer files. In general, the process can be a bit tedious to connect your cell phone with the Mac, but well, it is not something impossible. Only here it will be a challenge to find an application or your favorite solution to make this file exchange. What I usually do is to install Telegram and through Telegram send and receive all the documents from my cell phone to the computer. I think it can be a good tip. But finally, let's discuss performance. As I mentioned earlier, this computer was introducing Apple's new processor architecture. Therefore, some applications were operating through a translator, metaphorically speaking, since they weren't yet optimized for this new processor. The overall experience felt quick. However, in certain instances, you might experience slightly longer wait times. In the middle of 2025, we could say that practically all applications are optimized for this new processor architecture. So the computer, believe me, it behaves very fast, very agile. In the price range, you're not going to find something that feels this snappy without having to be running and annoying. Fan that makes a lot of noise or that the computer gets very hot. This computer is going to give you a super fluid feeling without getting hot, without fan noise. I think the feeling here is completely fine. But still, we are going to do some tests, for example, to compare the results of the review of this computer when we did it several years ago and now how it behaves, to see if there has been an evolution in this type of test that I usually do. At the time, in 2020, this test took about 10 seconds. Now, in 2023, it took a little longer, 12 seconds. There is a slight difference which could be attributed to the source of the clips, as I was unable to locate the original videos. Therefore, we can conclude that it retains the same level of performance that we observed back when exporting a video, although the workflow now feels more fluid. It's important to note that in 2020, navigating through the timeline required a bit more time for the preview to update, which was definitely quite annoying. Now, with increased optimization in the application, we observe that it responds significantly faster. So, while I won't claim it's a computer capable of editing very heavy 4K videos and working super smoothly, it is definitely suitable for tasks like school projects. You can handle those without any issues, especially when working in full HD. I believe it will be considerably faster and smoother if you're editing in 4K, although it might not be as quick as desired. The M1 MacBook Air in full 2025 is highly recommended. Just make sure to follow the few tips I provided if you're planning to purchase it refurbished or used from someone, as it's hard to find it in a sealed box these days. But trust me, it is the best option you can buy this year if your budget is around 10,000 Mexican pesos. For now, we have reached the conclusion of this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, feel free to let us know. We'll see you next time.